My name is Dr. Kevin Pecca. I wanted to make a podcast that exposes people to the true miracles of life and health. All the guests on this show have been specially picked because they bring something positive to the world. They have some of the most amazing and inspiring life stories. These people have a passion for living, healing, and leaving the world better than they found it. There is something inside these people that made them keep fighting through all the tough times, even when people told them it was not possible. They carried on and made their lives beautiful again. And now they are sharing their experiences with the world. This is the Expect Miracles podcast. Enjoy the show. Today on the Expect Miracles podcast, we have a very special guest, Dr. Justin Rabinowitz out of Warren, New Jersey. He is a chiropractor, and even more importantly, he is a movement specialist. Very excited to have him on today. He is very good at what he does. He's extremely passionate. I'm actually a patient at Strive to Move, which I couldn't be happier about. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Justin. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Kevin. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to chatting.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Justin, you are a specialty within, I don't even want to say the chiropractic field. You're a specialty within all. What field would you say that would be?
I joke with people when people ask me, what do we call you? And I said, well, my grandfather always used to say, call me whatever you want, just don't call me late to dinner. So, I kind of joke with people on that. And being my experience, which we'll obviously get into, it's honestly, I don't care what people call me. The only time I care is that if it helps someone get into our doors, if we can help them. But people, do I call you doctor? Are you a chiropractor? Do you PT? Do you strength? I was like, I'm going to do whatever you need that's going to help you. Whatever makes you comfortable to come and see me. If I think I can help you, that's what I want you to call me. So yeah, like you, I graduated with my doctorate of chiropractic and, worked in strength and conditioning in the past. And I've been able to sort of blend those two passions and specialties to kind of create, I guess you could call it like a hybrid model where we really, really specialize in trying to get to the root cause of why someone's having the problem that they are from a movement and rehabilitation perspective. And, if you came in and Dr. Kevin already, sometimes that looks like strength and conditioning. Sometimes that looks like, and I'll use air quotes, physical therapy. Sometimes that looks like manual soft tissue. And sometimes that looks like traditional chiropractic. And I like to tell people, I'm not religious with techniques. I want to do what works for the person. So because I'm a chiropractor, that doesn't necessarily mean I only adjust patients. Because I've worked in strength and conditioning, it doesn't mean that everybody needs exercise. Mm-hmm. I really want to look at who I see in front of me and try to deliver what I think the right input or the right modality or the right treatment that's going to get them to whatever goal that they have.
Dr. Justin, where does this passion come from?
Yeah, so I think since I've been younger, I've always intuitively looked and I guess understood movement, so to speak. And so I played baseball through college, and I remember in college once I was helping one of my teammates out with his swing, and I gave him like 2 or 3 different techniques. I worked with him for like 30 or 40 minutes, and I was just a player. Obviously wasn't a coach at that time. And I remember after winter break, he came back and he took a batting lesson with, I think it was John Valentine, who played in the major leagues. And he goes, hey, I just wanted to tell you that John Valentine told me the same thing you did.
Really?
And so not to like toot my own horn, but again, the movements have always, I've sort of understood. When I got into, I was either always going to be a teacher and a coach, mm-hmm. or I was going to do something in the medical field. And one of the reasons I chose chiropractic was because I thought that there was an opportunity to start to do some of the things that I was passionate about, which were sports and athletics, which was training, which was movement and medicine. And so the ability to utilize all of those, Strive to Move is literally just it's a selfish passion of mine, combining the things that I think are helpful for me and we'll get into, what I wish I would have had when I was younger.
How did you find and how did you blend? How did you come up with everything you're doing today? Because if you just go through chiropractic school, you're not going to find it. So, yeah. And what made you kind of look elsewhere and look outside the box to help get people better?
I saw a chiropractor growing up, and one of the reasons I went to chiropractic school, which was a very traditional experience as a chiropractor where I would get adjusted and go home. But the reason I went to chiropractic school, the models that I saw growing up were not like what I do now. But I originally went because I felt like it was one of the only places that I would go where I would really start to feel better rather quickly. I had been to physical therapy, and now I know differently. There's many different physical therapists and doctors and different things, which you and I have spoke about previously. But I remember going to the chiropractor, my lower back was sore, my mid back was tight, and I would always leave feeling better. I'd feel like immediate change, whereas PT, sometimes it takes 3, 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks to even start to feel better. So that's how I got into it. Then once I got to chiropractic school, I think I wanted to get involved with sports. I knew that athletics and that was important to me. And so I started to go to different clubs. They have different clubs on campus, which I'm sure you had at your school too. And one of them was a sports club, and one of them was what we call the Motion Palpation Institute. And both of them was where I started to see other practitioners. I was like, oh yeah, that looks interesting. They would start to combine different rehab techniques or different soft tissue techniques or work with different athletes with their chiropractic background or their medical background and utilize it all together. And so I started to see, I was like, okay, this is what I was looking for. And I knew personally, and again, everyone's different, and that's the cool thing about our profession. I just knew personally that if I opened a chiropractic practice, kind of did the heat stim adjusting on patients, and that was what I did, that I would probably not be intellectually very stimulated for too long. And combined with the fact that I didn't think it was probably the best way to treat people. And also I thought that there was other things that I would be able to do. So it was just kind of a perfect storm. And then going through it myself, and again, we can get into, I actually, have a history of back injury to the point I had to have back surgery. And what I do now is what I wish I would have had back then.
Absolutely. What were you dealing with? What happened with your low back there?
So when I was a senior in high school, I'll never forget, we were playing Phillipsburg High School. I was at Bridgewater Raritan High School, and I went to go and cut block someone in front of me. The kid tried to jump over me and ended up kneeing me right in the back. I ended up playing for another, somehow looking back, it's crazy, for another like 2.5 quarters, kind of gimping around until I finally just collapsed. Long story short, I ended up fracturing 2 transverse processes and bruising my kidney. And the way they sent me to the hospital is because a urine test and I was peeing blood.
Oh, geez.
So that was from the kidney. After that, the doctor kind of put me in a back brace for 4 weeks. And Kevin, this is legitimately what happened. I was in a back brace for 4 weeks. I went back to the doctor and he's like, yeah, I think you're fine.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, and now what? He's like, do whatever you want. So
really?
I took the back brace off on legitimately like a Wednesday. I practiced on Thursday, and we had state semifinals on a Saturday.
And we're talking football, right?
Football. So,
oh, geez.
And, I'm going to use air quotes again. I was fine. Like my back didn't hurt, but there was no like rehab plan. There was no like, here's the protocol to get back. There was nothing proactive. It was like, you're good. So after that, I stopped football, went on to play baseball through college, and about every year my back would, go out on me, so to speak, 2-3 times a year. And I would go to the chiropractor and feel better, do my thing. Now looking back, it was palliative care, meaning when I felt bad, and I was working out at the time, when I felt bad, I just kind of got treated, which I went on for a while until I was in chiropractic school, ironically, and I was playing basketball. I went up for a layup. Woke up the next morning, and if there's any medical people out there, I woke up the next morning, 0 out of 5 big toe dorsiflexion. Could not lift my big toe.
Wow.
So I was having ridiculous symptoms, L4-5, that went all the way down to my toe. Long story short, while in chiropractic school, I ended up having a laminectomy, discectomy. Now, I think about it a lot. Did I actually need it? Because some of my reflexes and things started to come back. I'm still not sure. I thought I had a pretty good outcome from surgery. I did have a pretty good outcome from surgery. Looking back, would I do it again? I don't 100% know, but what I do 100% know is when I got out of surgery, I asked my surgeon again, it's like the same story. What should I do? Like rehab? No, just go for walks. You're fine. Like I just had back surgery, nothing. And I actually still have the journals that at the time I was about 2/3 of my way through chiropractic. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I started journaling my rehab. And so at that time, I really started to kind of just take it into my own hands, because it didn't seem like anything.
What you had to do.
What I had to do.
Yeah.
What I had to do. And that's really what started me on my journey. And now as I'm starting to, it's about 10 years ago now, I'm starting to see some of the ill effects of the lack of kind of real guidance and direction, with some range of motion loss that I'm trying to work through, some more consistent pain as I try to play golf a little bit more, and I'm working through that. But again, just to reiterate, what I try and hope to do with my patients is I try to be the person or the provider that I didn't have growing up, so to speak.
Absolutely. Just curious, from your own experience, you talk to some chiropractors and they say there is absolutely no need for anybody to ever get any type of back surgery, fusion, discectomy. Being that you're a chiropractor now, and even in my office, like there's at times where I might just say, go see the orthopedic surgeon, go see the neurosurgeon, get a couple different opinions. Let's see what's going on. What is your stance if somebody comes into your office and says, what do you think about surgery on this?
I think you were a guest on my podcast last week, and what we talked about there was you need to explore every option first. Mm-hmm. And so someone like you and I who are conservative, it would make sense. It doesn't have to be you and I specifically, but I'm going to try every single conservative option until I can't. Now, as we learned in school, there are some medical times where that's not always the case. And one of them is, severe neurological deficit. So if there are people with drop foot or things like that, for me, it's mandatory that they get at least a neurosurgical consult. Now, that doesn't always mean that they have to have surgery,
right?
But it means that they need to go to that office. And I can tell you a story about that. I was treating a patient a couple of years ago, and she's like, "You got to see my husband. He can't lift his arm up. It's really bizarre." And so her husband comes into me, and he goes to lift his arm up over his head. As soon as he went to basically scratch his back, his arm just collapsed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this doesn't smell right. There's something neurological going on here that is not beyond what we can do, but beyond what I'm comfortable keeping him in the office with.
Right.
And so I referred him out to a neurosurgeon, and he went to 2 different neurosurgeons. Now, long story short, one neurosurgeon said you need surgery. The other one said, listen, honestly, there's a deficit here that probably won't correct with surgery, and you don't really need to do it. So he sent them back to us. Yeah. And we worked with him to try to work around some movement patterns and gain range of motion and things of that nature. And we had some success, not full resolution, but some success. But in that case, with a full, a neurological compromise, I'm making sure that they're at least getting that consultation. Now, the other thing, just for the audience out there, bowel and bladder dysfunction. I can tell you the first person I ever referred to the emergency room, someone that came in, and she actually circled back and is a patient again. And this was 10 years ago. She came in one day, she was having back and sciatic problems. And I just said it, any bowel or bladder dysfunction? No. And then she went to go lay on the table, and she said, but I was weird. I was watching TV last night, and all of a sudden I didn't realize I had to pee, and I had to run to the bathroom. And it was this weird thing that never sensation. And that was the first time that I had sent someone to the ER, because as we learned in school, potential pinching of the cord called equinus type syndrome, which she had the start of and eventually did need surgery for. So yeah, surgery is certainly on the table, and there are medical reasons for it. But if we're dealing with pain or lack of range of motion, and we're able to kind of function without those 2 issues, I would say as long as people can kind of tolerate not doing it, they should try to avoid it as much as
Absolutely. Possible. So Dr. Justin, what does your practice look like? What type of people come see you, and what are you helping people with? Because it's completely different, and I really want to get this across to people.
We say all the time, we see so many adults, generally people like you, active adults that either whether it's their job or their career, whether it's sports, whether it's wanting to play with their kids, that are just frustrated and basically at their wit's end with kind of the pain that they've been having, or the fear of it getting worse. Hey, I'm 33. How does this look like? I'm 35. And so what we specialize in is working with those active adults and athletes, and really coming up with, as we call it, one-on-one customized treatment plans to address what we consider to be the root cause of the problem, because everybody's different. And if we're doing the same protocol for every single patient, it'll help some, but it won't help all. I know, and I'll get your are you okay with us talking about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Dr. Ashton, who works with us here, who's my colleague, who's fantastic, we go through all of the cases every week. And he was discussing your case specifically, right? And you came in with some back and hip pain, and he said, I started with a McKenzie-based protocol with the gaining range of motion in the spine, which often really works for someone in your case. And he said, I didn't get any results.
Yeah.
And so I immediately went into more of a stability type program where we did some glute training and some core training and some hip training. And that's what started to make the biggest difference. And for you, as you kind of said, 60, 80, almost 100% resolution. Now we've got to stabilize you there. But the point being specific to your case, because 3 or 4 out of 10 times someone comes in with a typical low back, they might respond to that first McKenzie style treatment protocol. But in your case, your body at that time responded better to stability training. Mm-hmm. And so for us, it's about getting specific on what the root cause of the problem is, and then putting together a plan that is going to help you long-term be able to help yourself. And so, we almost never see patients more than once per week because we're always sending them home with homework and different training programs. And if people even want us to write their training protocol long-term, because we see it very similar as the rehab and the training piece of it for whatever they're training for becomes one and the same. That's how we're going to begin to help somebody, is really being specific on, Kevin, if you come with back pain and my mom comes with back pain, you would think the treatment should look different, but you'd be surprised about how many, average chiropractors or typical physical therapists where all the treatments look exactly the same. Yeah. That's something that's a problem. We really don't do. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, the reason I sought you guys out was because I had the low back pain as you described, and I see a phenomenal chiropractor, phenomenal acupuncturist. The pain would go away for 2 days, but then it would come back when I was at work bending down all the time. So I just knew it wasn't a structural issue anymore. It was a movement issue, and it wasn't going to self-correct until I get the proper mechanics on how to help my own body. And what was amazing about what you guys do is you guys literally didn't lay any hands on me. There was no, you put the power back in my hands to get myself better with the correct movement exercise and the correct exercises that my body needed, which I can't thank you guys enough.
Yeah, that's great. And, there are patients that come in. I had a lady once who said, I went home, I asked husband how the session went. She's like, my back feels better, but they didn't touch me the entire session. And he's like, well, what do you mean? You went to a chiropractor? And he didn't say this, but I'm saying this. Chiropractor literally means with your hands. And again, going back to how we started, it's not that we're opposed to doing it. We're not at all. We adjust patients and we do hands-on treatment, manual therapy with patients, but we're trying the best we can to get to what's going to help them the most in that session. And if that involves not touching them in that session, we'll do that.
So, and Dr. Justin, the only obstacle I see you guys might run into is a lack of motivation on the patient's part. If you get somebody that's motivated, can't live with this any longer, they do all your exercises, you're going to have phenomenal results. How do you handle somebody that's, air quote, lazy, or they're just not, they come in the next session, they're like, I didn't really do the exercises. How do you handle somebody like that?
Depends on the case. I'm going to tell the story first and people are going to think I'm a jerk, but this only happened once. I had one patient who came in who was having back pain, and she was kind of giving me some pushback on some of the exercises I was asking her to do. And again, at the end of the day, I'm just giving you the things that in my experience, I think are going to get you the result that you came in for. And she was kind of giving me some pushback on doing it. And I said, respectfully, it's your back.
Yeah.
It's your back. You don't have to do it at all. You don't have to do anything if you don't want to, but you came to me and I want to tell you how best that I can help you. But if you're not willing to do it, then that's okay too. Now, I would say that that's 1 out of 1,000.
Right.
I think that based on how we practice and like refers like, that once you start building a culture, we honestly don't have much of an issue with it. I can tell you I had a patient this past weekend who we've been working with remotely, believe it or not. And she came on and she's like, I'm so sorry. I've been so busy at work. I haven't been able to do my exercise. Don't hate me. I was like, listen, I don't hate you. I was like, I'm here because I want to help you. You're spending time and money with us. And so as long as you're understanding and have realistic expectations that, hey, if I'm not doing what I need to, it might either take a little longer or I might not get that exact result. I'm okay with it. Just not that don't blame me, but let's figure out a plan to kind of work through it. And with her, for us, it's solution based, right? And with this patient, actually, I was telling you before, the patient that I had sent to the ER, it's the same person who came back 10 years later at a different practice. It's very, very interesting.
It's funny
referred by a different doctor, like very odd. But this lady who I was having the conversation with, I said to her, I said, respectfully, I know your personality. And she's like, she works. She's in education. She's a consultant. She works her butt off. She works really, really hard. And I said, honestly, like, I'm okay with you not doing it. But I think really the conversation for us has to be around making sure that you always make time for you, because I know the type of person you are and you're super dedicated and passionate about what you do. And I think sometimes your health goes by the wayside because of it. So it's okay that you didn't do your exercises, but I know you've been dealing with this a long time. And I just don't want you to get into a place where for the next, 50 years, whenever life gets in the way, you don't take care of you.
Yeah.
And so that was the conversation with her. And I hope that she appreciated the fact that, like, I'm not going to yell at you for not doing your exercises, but I want to come up with a solution. I'll give you another quick story. I'm doing some more strength-based work with a post-op ACL, 13, 14-year-old girl who's had very, very slow progress. And she went back to her doctor, and her goal is to get back to, non-contact sports by September. And all the PT she's worked with, the doctors, her parents, myself, we've seen that her motivation kind of waxes and wanes a little bit. So I just got an email this morning. I was talking to the mom last week, and she's like, what do we do? And I said, listen, like, she's going to be fine long-term, but if she wants to play sports, like, we've got to do this thing. So I'm glad I'm talking to you, Mom. Mm-hmm. But the only way I'm going to continue to work with her is that if I get an email from her saying, I want to do this, like, I want to dedicate myself to doing this. At 8 a.m. this morning, I got that email.
Yeah.
But again, like, what we do isn't cheap and it's time consuming. And so the last thing that I want is to kind of waste someone's time and money. Mm-hmm. And as I do this longer, what I realize is that for people that we can help, I think we're the best people out there to do it. But for a lot of reasons, if we can't, the last thing I want to do is, again, get people to take their two most precious assets, a lot of times, three most precious assets, health, time, and money, and waste them.
Yeah.
So exactly. I have that conversation with people, and then I just want to make sure that we're clear, because at the end of the day, like, we're running a business and we have to make money, but I'm not going to do it in a way that's going to make people hate what I'm doing and feel like they got hoodwinked, or feel like that, they didn't get delivered the service. And at this point, I know the people that aren't going to respond to what we do or may not be motivated, and it's probably not the right fit. And that's okay. That's fine.
Absolutely. Dr. Justin, where can people find you online and all your platforms just to see all the work you're doing?
So our Instagram page, we post multiple times a day, generally, is at strive2move. Our website is strive2move.com. Again, with the number 2, we have a pretty robust and active blog there. I'll actually point people, with so many people working from home. Dr. Ashton just wrote a really, really, really robust 5-part blog series on ways to basically solve back pain from home. One of the articles is about a stand-up desk and how to set that up. One of them is about core exercises you can do. Something else is about a micro break. There's a lot of really good stuff that the audience can utilize right now. We have videos and articles, and that's all up on there. We also have our own podcast, which you were recently a guest on, the Stay Healthy New Jersey podcast, where we interview people in the health and fitness and space in our local community. We have about 40-something episodes. I'm actually doing another interview today with a friend of mine. He coaches gymnastics at Rutgers University. Nice. So we've had, double amputee marathon runners on there. We've had doctors on there. We've had trainers on there. It's been great. I'm sure you love probably doing the podcast because the people you get to talk to. And same thing for me. We get to speak with some really interesting people, addiction specialists, just so many awesome people in our community that I hope long-term is a resource for anybody that might need us. We're on Facebook at Strive2Move, and my personal page, I'll post some more rehab content and some of my own stuff at Justin Rabinowitz.
Beautiful. And Dr. Justin, at the end of every show, I like to ask all my guests, what is one piece of advice that has really resonated with you over the years that you would like to gift the audience? Could be absolutely anything.
I think that the key to success, or the key in life, is to be passionate and enjoy really what you're doing. I think that what I resonated with you when we spoke, Dr. Kevin, last week, was just how much you really loved what you were doing, your profession, right? Like, if you think about your day of 24 hours, hopefully 8 of it is sleep, at least for people like you and I, probably more than 8, maybe 10, 12 is work, and then a lot of nights and weekends. But for me specifically, like being able to kind of own my practice and understand, I really enjoy like the business side. I understand a lot. I really like a lot of the other things that go into running the business, that I like doing it. Right. And I think something really attractive is looking at people that are passionate about what they do. And so I hope that at a minimum, people are working or doing jobs or careers that they enjoy. And, even if it's not possible, find something else that you're passionate about. Maybe you need to work to live, so to speak, but then you find something else, because we all need to have something that we're passionate about. I'm lucky, you're lucky, in fact, that work is part of it. But I think that's always, especially for like the younger people out there, to make sure that it's not just going into profession because mom or dad wants you to do it. Take your time. You have a long time. My general rule of thumb, I talk to a lot of people that are in their 20s, 18, 19, and they're like, what do I do? And I kind of say to them now, listen, I hope you're going to be around for a while. You kind of have until 30 to figure it out. And some people figure it out later, but don't worry about it. Like when you're 21, 22, it's okay. Go explore stuff, do different things. Probably the jobs that, and again, this is a little bit of a rant, but I think about now how many people run multi-million-dollar social media companies. When you and I were in high school, when I was in high school, I'm a little bit older than you, that didn't even exist. Yeah. So to put so much pressure on yourself to figure it out at 16, is probably a new career that's not even invented yet. Yeah. And so I just think that it's important to be passionate. I think it's important to really explore and like what you're doing, and don't let the people around you influence you in a way that eventually you'll resent yourself and resent them, because at the end of the day, you've got to be the one to live with it.
Dr. Justin, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, your message, and your practice with us, and love to have you back on anytime.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. I love to share my story and any information that the audience might like, just like you do. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, subscribe, give us 5 stars, and leave a review. It really helps boost the podcast and spread the good word. My chiropractic practice is located in West Orange, New Jersey at Montclair Upper Cervical Chiropractic. You can also find us on Facebook at Montclair Upper Cervical Chiropractic. All of my information is on my website at drkevinpecca.com, drkevinpecca.com. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Dr. Kevin Pecca for podcast episodes, patient testimonials, and educational videos. I have daily affirmations and inspirational quotes on Instagram at Easel Affirmations, EASEL Affirmations. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at drkevinpecca@gmail.com, drkevinpecca@gmail.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Cheers.